Okay, Bill, just got a couple of balls here. This is going to be pretty straightforward. Again, backstroke structured pretty nicely. You're ready to rock and roll from there. So we really just need to clean up a little bit of maybe the idea of what's supposed to happen through this hit. Recapping a little bit about what you currently have. Again, nice backstroke structure. You got bounce exposed. You're ready to rock and roll. You even start down. You got a lot of good players have a little bit of, make sure you can see that, they'll have a little bit of that lay down because that's just sort of their natural golf swing. Totally fine. You've got a little bit of that too. Rock and roll from there. The problem is if we go underneath that at all, we've got to work back up that way. That's what we see out of your shot. So good backstroke, fine start of downswing. Once we're late, we're a little under early. We've kind of dumped it down a little bit early. That's what you see when the hands and wrists drop it a little bit early, okay? That way, you see the club fall under what would be kind of underneath that red line that we drew from your setup. So it's fine, and then late, it's like it goes under a little. From there, it works back up. So it's a big exaggerated representation of what you got going on. But if we get a little bit of that late in downswing, almost trying to slide that under the ball, the hit becomes this sort of bounce into right shot a lot. Really common when the contact starts going away. We're not hitting it high enough. That's something we see out of a lot of golfers as kind of a natural reaction to try and get their golf ball to do what they need it to do. So instead, I want you to have a little bit of an exaggerated feel, even on the normal shot, of same backstroke. And I want you to feel like, if anything, we'd be fading the ball a little bit. We'd be spinning it almost clockwise, just a touch. When we accomplish that from same backstroke, we're encouraging that club to work a little bit lower and around to the left. And if you see, that's a little bit more where Charles was at in that follow-through. The loft is still on there. I haven't gone up and closed the loft, which is sort of what we see out of your shot, the one that we did hit behind it a little bit. That's sort of the effort to get it back online from underneath and open. Again, that's an exaggerated view of kind of what you had going on. Versus Charles, that club head's still down a little bit. It's staying down and working around the corner versus upward and outward. So that feel, I've hit a couple little ones where we actually feel like we keep the club lined up back to our stomach. Sort of what one of the things I pointed out in that video. If it's lined up right here back to our stomach, right through the hits, boom, lined right back up to the belly button. Easy enough to do if you take the club, choke down the shaft, and kind of get it in the belly button. Like if you make a little backstroke, it's like, how would I line that right back up? That's a lot of what Charles looks like as he's hitting that little straightforward pitch shot. You get the shaft lined right back up to the stomach or to the spine, as I like to talk about sometimes. That's the opposite of the scoop up and out, right? You'd see that it's going to be there, which is kind of what we see in your face on. There's a pretty hard scoop up versus for a standard shot, we need a little bit more of that shaft just lines back up with the body as we rotate out. It's how we calm down the hands from kind of dumping and trying to scoop a little bit. So two little drills there of little shots where we're really feeling like that's down and around. The club's staying sort of down. You can see the loft is still on. And then you can make little practice swings to where it's just that line's right back up with the stomach as you rotate out. And you'll see the club in that movement, the club has to continue to rotate around on plane instead of ever being kicked up that way. So little chip shots, almost feeling a little fade, making some practice moves and feeling what the wrists are doing. They're applying a little bit more of a downward force through the hit versus ever being under the shaft, scooping it up. Your perception's maybe going to be that there's a little bit of steepness in that. That's just because you're actually applying a down force on top of the grip into impact versus being underneath of it, kind of pulling up on the grip. So again, I've got a couple balls here with lines. You see that almost like you would have with if you were going to line it up for putting. I just want you to hit some small little chip shots. And this applies especially and hitting a high soft one, we definitely need the club traveling on the arc with a lot of loft. The moment I've already set up with a flat shaft to handle the loft, the moment I go in here to get under it, I'm on the ground super early. I'm bouncing into that, I can blade them, I can do all sorts of stuff. So especially with loft, I want you to feel like you could spin that line. It's just a little bit of a visual. Can we get a little bit of fade spin on that guy? And what you'll start finding is you see that fly through the air. I don't know if you can see it long enough in here with the net, but as you see a couple chip shots like that with that feel, where you're gonna see is the line doesn't actually fade. It doesn't actually spin that way. That's gonna start producing the straight spin on the pitch shot that we want. So we're just, big picture, we're shifting it from sort of dumping and scooping into keeping pressure on top of the shaft as we pivot, as that shaft lines up with the stomach, and we carry the shot out with pivot however far we need to go. Whether that's a straight face normal one or a little bit of loft, it's really the same thing through the hip. The shaft lines back up a little bit more with the stomach instead of getting kicked back up trying to help the ball in here. Let the loft do the work and just see if you can fade those balls. That's your thought a little bit. A little bit. So I love the line because you start seeing it. If you can draw a line all the way around the ball, you really start seeing it spin. Again, I don't know if you're going to be able to in this short of a distance, but you're not going to see actual fade on that. You're going to see pretty straight spin. That would be sort of a little bit of a practice drill you could do and have a little bit of immediate feedback right there. You're working from here